The message arrived at 6:42 a.m., and for a moment, Carter Whitfield thought it had been sent to the wrong person. He read it again, slower this time, as if the meaning might change between the words. Don't come to Thanksgiving. Too emotional. We need rest from her. Your sister. The last line trailed off like a sentence that had been cut mid-thought, and somehow that made it worse. Because it left Carter to finish it himself. And every possible ending felt like an accusation. He stared at the screen long enough for the coffee in his hand to go cold. The house around him remained silent, but inside his chest, something sharp had already begun to fracture. Carter Whitfield had never missed a Thanksgiving in his life. Not in Greenwich, Connecticut, where tradition carried the weight of expectation. Not in the Whitfield house, where appearances were quietly guarded like currency. He set the phone down, then picked it up again as if the message might disappear. It didn't. His thumb hovered over the keyboard. What do you mean? He typed it, then erased it, because deep down, he already knew what it meant. Sloane Harrington had cried at the last family dinner. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough for it to be noticed. And in the Whitfield family, being noticed for the wrong reason was worse than making a mistake. Sloane was his wife, and for the past year, she had been quietly unraveling in a way Carter didn't fully understand. Not because he didn't care, but because she never explained it the same way twice. Some days it was anxiety. Other days it was exhaustion. Sometimes it was nothing at all. But last Thanksgiving, it had been something. Carter remembered the moment too clearly. Sloane sitting at the long dining table, her fingers wrapped too tightly around her glass. Vivian Aldridge, Carter's mother, speaking in that calm, measured tone she reserved for delicate conversations. And then Sloane excusing herself halfway through dinner. Not with anger, not with conflict, just absence. That absence had lingered longer than her presence ever had. And now, almost a year later, it had finally been named. Too emotional. Carter stood up from the kitchen counter and walked toward the window. The lawn outside was perfectly trimmed. Everything looked controlled. Everything looked fine. He picked up his phone again. This time he called. Vivian answered on the second ring. Her voice sounded exactly as it always did. Warm, composed, careful. Carter. He didn't waste time. What does this message mean? There was a pause. Not long enough to be obvious, but long enough to feel intentional. We just think it would be better this year, she said. For who? For everyone. The words landed without emphasis, but their meaning carried weight. Carter exhaled slowly. Sloane is my wife, and we understand that, Vivian replied. But we also have to consider the environment. Environment. The words sounded clinical. Detached. As if she's a disruption, Carter said quietly. No one said that. You didn't have to. There was another pause. This one heavier. Your sister has had a difficult year, Vivian continued. Margot needs stability right now. Margot Thornton, Carter's younger sister. Always composed, always controlled, until she wasn't. Carter rubbed his forehead. So this is about protecting Margot? It's about protecting the family. The sentence was delivered with a kind of certainty that left no room for argument. Carter ended the call without saying goodbye. He stood there for a long moment, the phone still in his hand, as if he were waiting for something to make sense. Nothing did. Upstairs, Sloane was still asleep, or pretending to be. He walked into the bedroom quietly. She was lying on her side, facing away from the door. Her breathing was steady. Too steady. Sloane, he said softly. She didn't turn around. I got a message from my mom. Now she moved, just slightly. What did she say? He hesitated. Not because he didn't know how to say it, but because saying it would make it real. She doesn't want us there for Thanksgiving. Silence filled the room. Then Sloane nodded once, as if she had expected it. That makes sense, she said. Carter felt something tighten in his chest. No, it doesn't. She turned to face him now. Her expression was calm. Too calm. It does, she said. I ruined it last time. You didn't ruin anything. I left the table. You were overwhelmed. And that's exactly the problem, she replied. Her voice didn't shake. It didn't crack. It simply existed. Carter sat down on the edge of the bed. So what, we just don't go? Sloane shrugged slightly. It's their house. It's my family. She held his gaze for a moment. And then she said something that shifted the entire conversation. Maybe it shouldn't be both. Carter blinked. What does that mean? It means, she said slowly, you might have to choose what kind of loyalty you actually believe in. The words didn't feel like a demand. They felt like a mirror, and Carter wasn't sure he liked what it reflected. Before we go further, take a moment and think about this. If you were in Carter's position, would you go to Thanksgiving without your partner to keep peace with your family, or would you stand beside them and risk creating distance with everyone else? Carter didn't answer her immediately, because the truth was he didn't have one. The next few days passed quietly. Too quietly. No follow-up messages from Vivian. No clarification. No apology. Just silence that felt deliberate. Carter found himself replaying past moments. Small ones. Subtle ones. Comments that had seemed harmless at the time. Observations that now felt like judgments. Sloane had never quite fit into the Whitfield rhythm. Not because she didn't try, but because she didn't perform. And in that family, performance was everything. On Wednesday evening, the night before Thanksgiving, Carter made a decision. He drove alone to his parents' house. The lights were already on. The table was already set. Everything looked exactly as it always had. Vivian opened the door with a polite smile. Carter. He stepped inside. I'm not staying. Her smile faded slightly. Then why are you here? Because I needed to understand something. She folded her arms loosely. Go on. Is this really about Sloane being too emotional, or is it about something else? Vivian held his gaze, and for the first time, there was no softness in it. It's about predictability, she said. Carter frowned. What? We don't know how she's going to behave, Vivian continued. And that uncertainty affects everyone. She's not dangerous. No one said she was. Then what's the real issue? Vivian took a slow breath. The issue is that she doesn't regulate herself in the way this family does. The words were precise, calculated. Carter felt something shift inside him. So you're excluding her because she doesn't act the way you want. We're setting boundaries, Vivian replied. And where does that leave me? That depends on you. The answer was simple, but it carried consequences Carter couldn't ignore. He looked around the room. Everything was in place. Everything was perfect. And for the first time, it felt empty. I'm not coming tomorrow, he said. Vivian's expression didn't change, but something in her posture tightened. That's your decision. Yes, Carter said. It is. He left the house without another word. When he got back home, Sloane was sitting in the living room, a blanket draped over her shoulders, the television on, but muted. She looked up as he walked in. You went. I did. And Carter sat down across from her. I'm staying here. Sloane didn't respond immediately. Her eyes searched his face, as if she were trying to find something hidden beneath the words. Are you sure? She asked. I wasn't before, he admitted. But I am now. She nodded slowly. Not with relief. Not with victory. Just with understanding. The next day, Thanksgiving passed quietly. No elaborate dinner. No long table. No controlled conversations. Just two people sharing a meal that didn't need to impress anyone. And somehow, it felt more honest than any holiday Carter had ever experienced. Later that evening, his phone buzzed again. A message from Margot. I heard you didn't come. Carter stared at the screen for a moment. Then he replied, I didn't. There was a pause before her next message. I wish things were different. Carter looked at Sloane, who was quietly washing dishes in the kitchen. So do I, he typed back. And for the first time, the truth didn't feel complicated. It just felt real. Before the story ends, ask yourself this. Was Carter's decision about loyalty, or was it about finally recognizing a pattern he had ignored for years? Because sometimes the hardest choices aren't about choosing between people. They're about choosing what kind of life you're willing to accept.